Hey everyone, welcome back here to Techstrong TV. You know, I've talked about this before. I came up in the security world, I think, in kind of the golden age of security, if you will. The first decade of this century, even the second decade. So from 2000, let's say, all the way through COVID, maybe. Um, I was really lucky and blessed to come up with a group of people, a whole class of people that really defined security. Because quite frankly, before 2000, we called it information security, but it wasn't anything like it is today, certainly, but it really wasn't the discipline that it became in those 20 years. My next guest is one of those people who came up in those days with me. Always always a happy face to see at the Security Bloggers Network every year at RSA. But throughout the year, he was always saying smart things, doing good things. My friend Wolfgang Goerlich. Wolfgang is now an Eins faculty member, as well as a public sector CISO. Wolfgang, welcome to Techstrong TV. It's great to have you on here.
So great to be with you. And I agree, like those golden years, we're all just trying to figure it out, right? Like,
Yeah,
what is
we
this
were.
field? What are we doing? How can we give back? How can we help?
But you look back on it beyond it besides it being just such a great time with great people, it was quite an impact. It was quite an impact when you think about the things we really kind of defined a discipline, right?
Mhm.
Because no one went to school for cybersecurity out of the people I knew, right? We all were network people or whatever, you got shoved into it. But um, now, of course, it's so different. Wolfgang, I don't know if a lot of people out here know IANS, IANS. I mentioned it to someone a couple weeks ago, and they looked at me like I was talking about dog food or something. Um, so why don't we start there? How would you describe IANS to the folks out here?
Yeah, perhaps IONS is one of the best kept secrets in cybersecurity. So it is a practitioner-led organization that provides research and intelligence to other professionals, right? So if you're a CISO and you're in healthcare, financial services, tech, public sector, all areas I've worked in, you're always wondering, like, what do I not know? What am I missing? Like, I'm about to do X. I know there's pitfalls. Where are they before I trip over them? And what IANS has done a really good job as is pairing up practitioners to become faculty with people who are trying to make decisions, trying to take action. So you're trying to get something done. Let's say we're putting in an AI policy, and you can reach out to folks at IANS and they can give you advice about what's worked, what's not, and what's up and coming and emerging.
Love it. Before we go further, because I'll forget, how if people want more information on IANS, what's the website?
IANSresearch.com.
Perfect. And I should mention, besides Wolfgang, I have more than several friends who are affiliated with IANS. Rich Mogul, Adrian, I
Yeah.
can never pronounce it, Sanabria, Jennifer Jabish,
Hmm.
Jennifer Manila
JJ.
Jabish, whatever. Just off the top of my head, those three come to mind, but there's more, I'm sure. Because whenever we're in the same town together and I wind up going to an IANS or a restaurant where the IANS folks are, it seems like I know everyone at the table. Um, but Wolfgang, recently IANS launched something a little out of character for them,
Yeah.
right? A piece of software.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, they recently launched the first cybersecurity MCP server, which is providing this research right in the prompt.
That's pretty cool. What do you mean exactly by that for our folks out here?
Yeah, so let's suppose, I mean, first, let's jump back to what you said, right? Like we all came up trying to figure this out, and we've seen lots of different innovation waves, be it the cloud or zero trust or what have you, when things are changing very quickly. And I think we can all agree right now the space that's changing very quickly is generative AI. But you get on the prompt, and I have a problem trying to solve it, and you ask the prompt, and you get back this answer that sounds all right, that sounds kind of generic, maybe sounds a little bit like marketing fluff, sounds way too well written for any cybersecurity person, if I'm honest. And you're like, okay, sure, that sort of makes sense. but it isn't really tailored, right? Because as we all know, AI is trained on the entire corpus of the internet, but it's not necessarily trained on decisions that people are making right here, right now. And so with the IANS MCP allows us to say you're working on something in Claude and you're like, hey, I'm trying to update my policy. I'm trying to update my standard. I'm working on a runbook. This is a real example. I was working on a runbook. I'm like, I wrote this runbook about 6 months ago. What has changed? And it reaches out through the MCP to IANS research and pulls back quotes, insights, polls, what have you, to enrich the content that you're working on.
So is it a one-way connection into the IANS research corpus? It not. So that's the gateway. You know, but well, APIs were one thing, MCPs another thing, obviously. But so that's pretty cool then. Now, you have to be, I guess, an IANS customer to be able to access this.
Yeah, that is true. It is for IANS clients and IANS faculty members.
And it has the complete corpus of IANS research kind of idea. What a great thing to have at your fingertips when you think about it, right?
Yeah, it is. And so, you mentioned JJ and all the other folks, right? So I could pick up a phone, I could get on a Zoom for these folks, but we're all pretty busy. So it's going to be like 2, 3 weeks out. I
Yeah.
could get on the portal and I could download the research. Remember how we used to do this? You download the paper and you'd like yellow highlight it and you go
Yeah,
through and you're about to update.
yep. Those, you know what? Part of me is sad. People coming up now are never going to know from that.
Hmm.
It's kind of, look, we lived through the generation where we went from going to libraries to Google searching. But this next generation is going from Google searching to just AI spoon feeding you. And so whether or not that's going to rot your brain, I think is a question for another day. But it's certainly become a lot easier to access that kind of information instantly. Uh, you know, Wolfgang, so Techstrong is part of the Futurum group now, and we actually have something called the FIP. We call it the FIP internally, the Futurum Intelligence Platform. And
Nice.
and a but we don't have the MCP piece of it. It's still a web interface. But it's the same thing. It's all of the Futurum research, and we have data from G2 and another company we just bought called ETR that has like $2 trillion in in IT spend tracked. Um, and you could pull that up. Why I bring it up is it's such a. Can you imagine? I mean, think back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you talk about taking out your yellow highlight pen. You couldn't even pull up those reports to highlight. You
Right.
didn't have them in any place. They weren't, there wasn't a place, there wasn't one kind of mother lode that you can hit like that.
Hmm. Yeah, and
It's,
that's the
it's
thing with
amazing.
artificial intelligence, right? Like it's only as good as the content behind it. It's only as good as the actual data that you're building off of the insights that you're harvesting. So I agree with you, but I want to jump back to something you said because this is something I struggle with a lot, right? This idea of de-skilling versus upskilling. This idea of like, is AI going to rot your brain? The if I'm if I'm on Claude, I'm like, give me the answer. Surely it's going to rot my brain. If I'm on Claude saying, hey, give me some insights, maybe that's a little bit better. If I'm on Claude, I'm like, hey, look across the faculty. Who's arguing about this? Or what are the 2 points so I can think about it? Now a little bit better because my brain's getting engaged. I'll tell you what I've started to do is going through that entire life cycle and then creating flashcards or creating learning guides, creating podcasts that I can listen
Sure.
to, right? Here's the content. It's interesting, like in the library days, it was, can I find the book and get the book? Now, since the content comes
That
to you,
was
to
an
me, it's
art
like,
in of itself,
it
right? Using
was.
the Dewey
Yeah.
Decimal System and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
I still
So
remember the
I've
numbers for
done a little
computers.
research. I remember. So Wolfgang, I've done some reading on this, old fashioned reading, and interestingly, they said when we moved to that Google search thing that it was going to rot people's brains.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is it actually made them sharper. Because when you did a Google search, you still had to discern between quality content, not quality content, what was useful, because Google, well, back then anyway, that's before they started zero clicking and keeping all the traffic. They would just give you a list of resources, and you as a human had to make a decision, much like a jury decides what testimony to believe and how much weight to give it. You had to make a decision and give weight to the different, Google answers. With AI, that went away. It kind of gives you just that answer, as you said, right? But then the latest studies found that if you're an AI user, someone who uses AI a lot, you don't do that. You don't just ask AI the question, get the answer, and move on. People generally engage the AI at that point. Well, what do you mean by this? Or I was thinking that, or is there another way of looking at this one? And that dialogue, if you want to call it, actually does sharpen our brains, right? But that's only, and this is why we're getting this gap between, let's call them power users or not. If
Mhm.
you're the kind of person who's just coming into Claude and say, give me the answer, and I run with it without thinking twice because I didn't have to, you might wind up in Wally World, like that movie. Remember, they're all that guy sitting on the servers.
Right, right.
But if you're the AI power user who takes that and now has a dialogue and now refines the answer and puts your thoughts into it, and actually you now have a digital coworker to kind of, or a digital lines faculty member to bounce this around. It's actually good for your brain, as it turns out. Um, what does that mean? Everybody, not everybody's going to be a power user, I know for sure. But that's what they're saying.
Well, I think it's the difference between advice that you hope is right and advice that you act on.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're going to, there's a couple different components. Certainly the media literacy,
Mhm.
and then the access to good content that is accurate and prevents or presents both sides of the issues and is enriched. And then is the mindfulness to make sure that you're interrogating it. I uploaded one of my strategy documents and I pulled up the last 6 months of data from IANS. I had it redline the document, put in comments, and then I spent the next, like, half hour going, "Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. That's probably good. Alright, that one is a good one," right? And if you are actively working on it, I think you're right. We oftentimes say new technology makes us, less intelligent, less effective, but it's only if we let that happen.
Right. And there's smart people always find a smart way of using it that keeps them smart. And I think that's the lesson there to be learned from it. But it's interesting. Um, Let me ask you another quick question. Being at Heinz is all about security. Look, it seems that we're hearing a lot of holes in the MCP armor, a lot of chinks in the armor. Look, this is a technology that was maybe 2 years ago was brand new. I think it was a year old in January.
Yeah.
So in 2 short years, it became the de facto standard for the way we interact with AI. And maybe we didn't think through all of the security kinda, what we could do to harden it, what we could do to make sure there's not the vulnerabilities and people. Because think about it, if someone can get into it, redirect or whatever, be catastrophic. What do you think? Have we locked MCP protocol down enough? Is it truly, truly safe?
I think, well, nothing is ever truly safe. I do think
No.
IANS is in the fortunate position of being surrounded by 170 practitioners that can shoot holes in it, and you can rapidly iterate. But you're spot on. Whenever there's a new technology, we're always over our skis. We've been over our skis for decades. We put
I
something
know.
out, we see how people use it, we see where the holes are, and then we respond and react. API security in the beginning is exactly where we are with MCP security today.
It's a good way of looking at it. All right. Hey, Wolfgang, we're about out of time. I gotta wrap up. But you're gonna be out in Vegas for Hacker Camp or no?
I will. I will. I'll look forward to seeing you and everyone else out there.
Absolutely, just in another week or 2. Until then, though, hey, great seeing you. Say hello to all my Irons friends, and congratulations on this MCP launch. Maybe we'll see. Maybe Heinz becomes a software company. Who knows?
There you go.
There you go. Hey, you're watching Techstrong TV. We're going to take a break. We'll be back.